So this is just going to be a recap video of NBA free agency so far. I'm just going to be literally reading through tweets, giving you all of the latest signings and updates and trades as well. So just bear with me here. It's going to be maybe a 5-minute video, just me reading through the tweets, giving you the updates and the latest news and where guys are going. So far, Garrett Temple, he's going to the Pelicans. PJ Tucker signed a 2-year deal with the Miami Heat. He has a player option in the second year. So, as a Heat fan, I'm happy about that. You know, PJ Tucker never been a favorite player of mine, but still, another guy to add to the team. I'm really happy about that. Reggie Bullock is leaving the New York Knicks. He's joining the Dallas Mavericks on a 3-year, $30.5 million deal. I actually thought he would have gotten more than that based on how well he shot this past year. So, it looks like the Rockets are working on a sign-and trade with the Bulls for center Daniel Theis that might involve Victor Oladipo, which would be very interesting because Victor Oladipo was reportedly going to be a player who might sit out for a couple of months and before he got signed because teams just weren't sure if he's going to be healthy. And we saw it happen last year. There were a whole debacle with him with Indiana, then Houston, then Miami, and just so, all over the place. Just never healthy enough to get back to the peak level he was at when he was an All-NBA and All-Defensive shooting guard. Cody Zeller, he's going to sign with the Portland Trail Blazers. Theis, we already talked about. Theis' contract, by the way, is going to be 4 years, $36 million, so a pretty good chunk for him. Caruso getting a surprisingly large deal, despite not being much of a scorer. He's going to Chicago as well, so 4 years, $37 million for him. The New York Knicks have kept most of their team together, surprisingly. They didn't get Reggie Bullock back, obviously, but they got Derrick Rose back, and he was a guy who supposedly was looking at going back to Chicago. Instead, decided to stay in New York. Along with Nerlens Noel, who got a decent-sized contract. He was huge for them when Mitchell Robinson got hurt, and he certainly was a guy competing for an all-defensive spot. Alec Burks is staying there as well. He had a couple of hot games for them throughout the year, and they've added Evan Fournier, who was initially viewed as maybe a Tier 2 free agent in this class behind the all-star caliber players and all that stuff. So he's someone who can average about 19 points per game. He's done it in the past. In New York, I don't know what his role will be. I think he'll average closer between the 15 to 17 range than the 19 range that he had when he was with Orlando. But Fournier, a guy who was originally thought he might re-sign with Boston, now going to New York instead. The Knicks continue to be a place for mostly B-list free agents, unfortunately for them. They're not getting any of the A-class guys. The Clippers get Nicholas Batum back. Batum, a guy whose career was almost dead for a while, and then he comes back to life in Los Angeles last year. Dwight Howard's going back to the Lakers, so that's going to be a huge upgrade for them. As I've always said, losing Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee is what killed them last year, besides the injuries, of course, to LeBron and AD. But those two things combined just absolutely destroyed the Lakers last year, and now things seem to be headed in the right direction yet again. I'm still surprised Dwight left, honestly. Solomon Hill going to the Atlanta Hawks, so that's a bench piece right there for them. Trevor Ariza going back to the Los Angeles Lakers. He's got history with them, obviously. Watching him play with the Miami Heat last year, I'm not sure how much he has left in the tank, honestly. I really don't know, but we'll find out. He's going to be in LA. Another veteran depth piece for the Lakers. Mike Muscala, 2-year deal worth $7 million is going to Oklahoma City Thunder. That's a place he's familiar with. Alex Len is going to sign a 2-year deal with the Sacramento Kings. Len, a guy who will be in a depth piece there as well. Should get a good number of minutes, though, as a rotational player. Zach Collins, who I still think has a lot of potential, but never got to live up to it in Portland because of all the injuries he suffered. He's signing a surprisingly large deal, a 3-year deal worth $22 million with the San Antonio Spurs. Now, the Spurs are a very good team when it comes to developing players, but they've hit their snags in recent years along the way. They have DeJounte Murray, who seems to be headed in the right direction, but there are also guys like Lonnie Walker, or maybe Zach Collins too now, who just have not reached their full potential through the first couple years of their career. We'll see if that changes this coming season for Zach Collins. Bobby Portis is staying with Milwaukee. Unfortunately, it looks like Miami was in the running for him, did not get him. That would have been it. I would have been stoked for that. Bobby Portis was so underpaid last year. Even so, he had a 2-year deal worth $9 million from Milwaukee. That still feels like a significant underpayment for a guy who's been a pretty good outside scorer and a pretty good overall just scorer in general. So Bobby Portis seems to be one of the best bargains of free agency so far. Gary Trent Jr., 3-year, $54 million deal to return to the Toronto Raptors, so a huge chunk of pie for him, a huge payday for him. Furkan Korkmaz, 3 years, $15 million to stay with the 76ers. Not really a shocking deal there. I think 76ers fans will be a little underwhelmed by what's happened so far today. I know Joel Embiid is based on his Twitter account, but what are you going to do, Philadelphia 76ers fans? continue probably tweeting bad things about Ben Simmons. I guess that's probably what you're going to do. But Doug McDermott also going to San Antonio Spurs, a 3-year, $42 million deal, one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA in terms of efficiency over the past couple of years, so you have to be happy about that if you're a Spurs fan. Boban's not going anywhere. Boban's staying in Dallas. So is Tim Hardaway Jr., by the way. So those are two big wins, I think, for the Mavericks, especially with everything with Luka looming and changing coaches after a long time. I think this is going to be a huge thing for them with the front office and coaches turning over. You now have a bunch of guys from last year's team coming back, a bunch of big personalities that everyone seems to enjoy, and, of course, guys who can contribute significantly, and someone like Tim Hardaway who can get just scorching hot from 3 points during an NBA game. Mo Harkless, 2-year deal worth $9 million for the Sacramento Kings. Jeff Green is leaving. The Brooklyn Nets. He was a huge part of what they were doing last year, despite not being someone who's maybe recognized in the national media per se, but he was a huge part of what they were doing. And he's going to sign a 2-year, $10 million with the Denver Nuggets. So the Nuggets add another really good player to their rotation. I wonder what his role will be on the team, honestly. Sterling Brown, going back to Dallas. Kyle Lowry is going to agree to a 3-year, $90 million deal with the Miami Heat. I've already talked about this in previously. You can go check it out. I was talking about how the Miami Heat are winning in free agency already. You can go look that up. Right now, it's on my channel, obviously. So just, click on my logo below and you'll find it. But that'll be part of a sign and trade, which I presume would include Goran Dragic, Precious Achiuwa, and maybe some draft picks. Chris Paul is staying with the Phoenix Suns. That's not a shocker at all. It's a 4-year deal worth up to $120 million for Adrian Wojnarowski. I hope I said the last name right. I never know if the Woj I'm saying it right or not. Torrey Craig has agreed to a 2-year deal worth $10 million with the Indiana Pacers, so that's something good to get for them. Duncan Robinson, I already talked about this in the other videos too, as well. Miami, 5-year deal worth $90 million with a player or team option for the final year. I don't know which one it is yet. I'm still gotta figure that part out. TJ McConnell has agreed to a 4-year deal worth $35.2 million to stay with the Indiana Pacers. He's been huge for them recently. He's had some really great defensive performances for them. And kind of just the hustle guy does a little bit of everything. Really a glue guy for them and their team in general. So a good deal for him. Good thing he gets paid too, because he really is a guy who works hard and deserves that money based on the way he plays on the floor. Tim Hardaway's deal, just to specify, is worth $74 million. It's a 4-year deal. Mike Conley is staying in Utah. This was one of the first re-signings that broke out when we first got to that 6 p.m. mark where free agency opened up. He's agreeing to a 3-year deal worth $72.5 million to stay in Utah. So Utah gets to keep a huge piece of their team from last year. Kelly Olynyk, a 3-year deal worth $37 million to go with the Detroit Pistons. So Kelly Olynyk goes from playing with the Miami Heat in the finals, not this past season, but the year before that, to playing with Houston, to now playing with Detroit. So going from one of the better franchises in the NBA to two of the worst. And New Orleans Pelicans guard Lonzo Ball is going to go to Chicago somehow. He's getting there with a 4-year, $85 million contract in a sign and trade agreement. So Lonzo Ball, you had 2 years, a year and a half of Lonzo Ball and Zion Williams and Brandon Ingram on the same team. And now that core is falling apart in New Orleans. I don't really know what you're going to do. Obviously, they've done some trades already. They got Valanciunas to get rid of Eric Bledsoe, but who's playing point guard in New Orleans now? I think that the Pelicans might have. You brought Lonzo in, you developed him. He learned how to shoot the 3-ball. He's a great guy to have throwing lobs to Zion now. After all that work putting into him, all that investment into him, now he's just walking away. But he's part of the sign trade, so you're getting something in return for him, but still, it feels like a missed opportunity on the part of the Pelicans. Jared Allen staying in Cleveland. 5-year deal worth $100 million to game paid the big bucks there. And that's a nice chunk for him. He's been a good player the past couple of years. He was actually, I think he might have been just outside the top 10. No, I think he was inside my top 10 for agents going into this offseason. So, good deal for him. Just to specify, the New Orleans Noel trade, New Orleans Noel re-signing, was 3 years, $32 million. So over $10 million a year for him, mostly for his defensive performance from this past year. Alec Burks also staying in New York for a 3-year, $30 million deal. So $10 million a year for him. Surprised he gets that much compared to Noel. I would have thought Noel had gotten significantly more per year than him. JaMychal Green, free agent for 2 years, $17 million to go to the Denver Nuggets. And he's staying there, obviously. That's the team he was with previously. So lots of re-signings from Denver. Denver's still looking very deep going to next year. They're not losing very much here. And Thomas Satoransky, and Garrett Temple, and a second-round pick are going to New Orleans for Lonzo Ball, so that's the trade right there. Satoransky, a good hustle player for the Chicago Bulls, but really, they're not giving up a lot to get Lonzo Ball here in this deal. What else? It looks like that covers just about everything so far, other than the fact that Jimmy Butler is going to get a 4-year max extension that's going to be over $184 million. But other than that, that wraps up so far. This video's gone 10 minutes. I expected 5. It went 10. It just tells you how much I underestimated the amount of signings that have gone on today so far in the NBA. But anyways, this was a brief rundown, just me going through everything that's happened so far as of 9:23 p.m. Eastern Time on the day the NBA free agency kicked off. You can see the Nerf guns behind me. But everybody, have a good night. I'll talk to you all later.